Hello and welcome to Craft Alive number 6, so our 6th class for the week of Craft Alive. So today we're playing in our art journal again, and we are going to make a Christmas themed page. So I do work in altered books for part of my art journaling, and there is a full video on how to alter a book on my personal YouTube channel, Alexis and Melinda Art Space. If you can't find it or can't find the channel, just message me through Scrapbooking and I can pop you some links. So I like using some of the text that's existing in the book, but today I'm actually going to cover this up with some more text. Yeah, I know it sounds a bit redundant, but you're going to see some of this text through the page, and I don't want these pictures happening. So I'm actually going to grab some pages out of my thesaurus. Who uses a thesaurus nowadays? Not me anyway. I like the pages because they're nice and thin. So I'm just going to grab scissors. So I just want to trim off the side bits that are torn because I don't actually want the torn bits. Now I'm just going to glue these on in sheets today. I could rip them up and glue them on in smaller pieces, but I just want to put it on in big pieces today. Doesn't matter that I can't cut straight, you won't see it. As I said, like most of this is going to be covered up. So today I'm just going to use a good old glue stick. Because I'm just gluing paper to paper, it works really well. Just make sure I get the edges done really well. I'm just going to overlap it a bit and I'm going to trim it off later. So I like putting book text or starting with a page with text on it first, and you don't see a lot of it at the end, but a little bit of it peeks through. So we're just going to continue and cover the entire page. I could not cover the entire page this particular time I want to. I think I'll need a couple more pages to do the entire book. So art journaling is lots of fun. It's a great place to explore and play. Not a lot of rules with art journaling. There's some guidelines to follow to get a good result, and I'll let you know those as we go along and do our page if you're new and haven't art journaled before. Art journaling is great for your mental health. It's a great place to play and just relax. And I'm just going to just make sure all these edges and corners are stuck down. So I use my art journal as a bit of good mental health therapy. It's a nice to take time out of your day, away from your family, away from your kids, and just have a place to play. No one has to see your art journal. So mine are all over YouTube and all over the world, but that's my choice. So if you choose to have your art journal be very private, that is up to you. Misjudged that. I need one more page. Just going to put that book on the floor. So I could have stuck this text all different ways. I'm just going for straight ways tonight. Nice and straight. Just also making sure it's all up the right way. I have a thing about things being up the right way. There's no reason why it can't go upside down. It's just I prefer my words to be up the right way. So by using the glue stick, there's not or any drying time. So I'm just going to cut these off. I'm not going to cut them off real accurate. I just want to take off the bigger chunks so I know where my page finishes. I will trim it up properly at the end. These ones I might just fold over and then I know where my page finishes. missing a bit of glue up here. So this is going to be a Christmas art journal page. Missed a bit of glue down here. I always miss a bit of glue. I could use liquid glue as well, but just for time's sake, I decided to use a glue stick. The glue stick is fine for paper to paper. If I'm sticking over paint or something, I will use a bit heavier glue. Now, this is very bold, and I don't want it to be very bold in my page. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use some gesso. Gesso is basically an undercoat. So we'll seal and undercoat our page. I'm going to put a very thin layer on. I still want to see some of the words. This will also, it will also protect our page when we go and put all our paints and things on top of it. Like you undercoat a house, you need to undercoat your art journal page. Do I use gesso on every single page I start with? No, depending on what I'm doing on the top of my page. I'm using acrylic paint and I've got these words, so I don't want the words to be as bright. So I am going to just knock the words back a bit. That's what we sort of say in scrapbooking. Knock the words back a bit. Sorry, in art journaling. Looks like I put probably the perfect amount out. Don't mind that it's thicker in some spots and it's covering up the words and you can see the words in other spots. Doesn't matter. Doesn't have to be perfect. Just making sure I get around all the edges. If I totally wanted to cover up the words, I could. I just do a second layer of gesso. But I like the words. They add a bit of texture. Just making sure I've got no big blobs sitting on my page. And I'm going to dry that off with the heat tool. Just going to pause the video because you don't need to see me drying stuff. I'm trying to cut out all the boring stuff or all the stuff that you don't really need to see to condense the video down to be under an hour and a half. So drying stuff you don't need to see. Back in a moment. Okay, so I've dried off all the gesso. I'm just wondering if it's my camera that's crooked or my page. It's all right, I'll just line it up with the screen. It won't matter. It's a combination of both. The camera might be mounted crooked. So my gesso is all dry. As you can see, you can still see a bit of the words through it. That's great. Now we're going to grab this new stencil set that I've designed for my business, Scrapbooking and Craft. So I make and design and manufacture all the stencils, foam stamps, chipboard and white mixed media cardstock that's available on our website. So this is a tree and mask set, so we're going to use it in combination. So the first thing we're going to use is the masks, which are the little pieces. I'm going to start with the little tree. We're basically going to do a gradient of trees from little to big. So little ones will be in the background and big ones will be in the foreground. So what I want to do is I want to grab some blue greenish paints to sort of do a bit of sort of sky in the background, because when I stencil around these, I'm actually stenciling in the sky and the tree's going to stay white. It's not going to stay white for long, it's only going to stay white for a little bit. Now I'm going to use a makeup sponge. So a couple of these paints are Dina Wakley paints and a couple are Dylusions paints. The Dylusions one we just have to give a quick shake. I'm just going to put some paint out just above. Oh, I'm just going to put it on my finger, perhaps. Let's get it off on the sponge. So you want to load your sponge off and then tap it so you would work the paint into the sponge. You don't want to have a big goopy lot on your sponge. So I'm just going to stencil around. I'm not going to stencil the bottom because I want to keep layering. So I'm just going to sort of move my tree and stencil around. I want to add a bit of this colour, which is Dina Wakley Marine. I actually don't stock any of the paints or things. I only stock what I make and manufacture, and my daughter's paper napkin she sells on my site. So if you want any paints and stuff, I team up at the shows with Hillbilly Scrapping, and she stocks all the paints. That's actually where I buy mine from. So just putting the trees at different levels, mixing up both paints. Need some more of this one out. So I'm trying to create an illusion of sort of a mountain range in the background. So at the moment I'm sort of putting in the sky around the trees. So I'm dropping some of the trees down, doing some of them up. If they get a bit of blue in them, that's okay. We're going to sort of go over them with bigger trees in a minute. So just going across the top. Just make sure you're varying the depth of the tree. You don't want them all straight. Trees don't grow in straight lines. So we're going to pick up our next stencil and we're going to slightly change our colour. I want to put a little bit of peacock out. So if you look at a mountain range, you sort of have darkness in the background and then it sort of goes gradient to lighter. So I'm going to sort of overlap the trees a bit. Grab a bit of the paint. And go up into the trees. Half overlapping. These white bits we're going to colour in a minute, so we're not going to see those. I'm going to colour them in with some lighter paint. So just going up and creating the illusion of trees. Again, I'm not stenciling down the bottom of the stencil. Looks like a bit of a hot mess at the moment, but I promise you it will all come together. Art journaling sometimes does go through a bit of a hot mess phase and then it sorts itself out. So now I want to go into a bit more of a green. So I want to grab some ocean. And I'm mixing all these colours up because I don't want one particular colour starting and stopping. Now we're going to take our bigger stencil. I'm going to put that colour. Do some bigger trees and then we're going to swap, a bigger mask. And then we're going to swap to the stencil and actually put some colour in. So I'm liking that. It's going to improve, I promise. At the moment it looks like a hot mess. Okay, so now I'm going to grab the stencil. We're going to grab more greenish colours. Whoops, it's probably a bit too much paint. And I want to grab, so that's a matte emerald colour. This is lime Dina Wakley paint. So it doesn't matter what brands of acrylic paint you use, you can mix and match all of them. So this time we're actually going to use this stencil and we're going to stencil in more feature trees. So I just want to pick up a little bit of that paint and work it into my sponge. So these are going to be our feature trees, more in the foreground. Some of this is going to get covered up, but I really don't know where it's going to be covered up. So I'm sort of doing it all over. I like to pick up two colours on my sponge so my trees don't be all the one colour. I like how it's different colours. So I'm going to go in here. I'm going to go up here. I'm covering up half of some of the trees, but that's okay. Try to be more dark in the middle, and then I'm coming to light at the front. Just want to pick up some of that light. If you keep it consistent like that, darker colours in the back and then coming to light, it gives it a bit more continuity. And I apologise for the bells. It is in the Christmas season, but they're my daughter's bunnies playing with their toys. We give them cat toys with bells in it, and she's ringing it. Hello, Bunny. What are you doing? She's saying, it's my playtime, Mum. Let me out of the cage. Stop working. I think that's what the bell is for. We usually let them out for a run around the house about this time, but I must get this video done. So you're just going to have to wait, Miss Bunny. Okay, now we want to dry that off. There's a lot of drying off between layers so we don't make complete mud. So let me dry that off. It's looking like it's got distance, and that's the look I was going for. Bigger trees in the middle. This whiteness we're all going to get rid of in a minute, so don't worry. So this is all dried off now. We're going to do some more work over the top of it. Just misplaced my large tree stencil, but large tree mask, but I'm sure it's around somewhere. things do go missing on my desk quite often. So we're going to bring this stencil back in, and I'm going to grab, let's grab this holly one and this one. And I'm going to stencil through a stencil. That sounds like fun, doesn't it? So I'm just going to grab, I don't want that one, this one, which is Lapis, Dina Wakley. Just going to put a little bit out. The Dina Wakley paint is great for stenciling because it's a heavy body paint, so it's thicker than the Dylusions paint. So we're going to line our tree stencil up over our tree. Going to put our holly stencil straight on top. So this means that we're going to put the holly design through the tree, but you don't have to worry about going outside the tree lines because you've got that second stencil sitting there. So we just want a light pattern on some of these trees in the foreground. So we're just going to do a couple of them in the holly. I find by placing the two stencils over, you can still get into all the nooks and crannies. And if you don't line it up perfectly, it does not matter. Now we are going to put, what do we want? A bit of ocean on these. You can tell ocean's one of my favourite colours. I have to squeeze it really hard to get out. It's getting very low. So we're going to go ocean on these couple. Just adding a bit of texture and interest to our trees. So just dabbing an up and down motion to go through our stencils. There we go. Now we've got some pattern on our trees. It'll really stand out on some and it'll be subtle on others, but that is okay. We're going to do this one here. And again, I like to mix the two colour paint sometimes. Gives it a good look. So take a peek. Beautiful. And I think we'll do this one over here. And we might bring it in just a third design stencil just to do the edge bits. So this is how you can incorporate your non-Christmas stencils into Christmas. As you can tell, I'm not real good at washing my stencils. I don't usually wash them when it's just acrylic paint. I will give them a wash if I'm using something that will set hard on the stencil, like a texture paste or a gel medium. Other than that, I don't wash stencils. Don't have time for that. And the paint building up on them doesn't affect the stencils. There we go. So we've got some pattern. Again, we're going to dry this. So that's dried. Now we're going to work on getting some of this white out of the way because I don't like the white. So what I'm going to do with that is actually bring in some archival inks. The reason I'm using archival inks is they are permanent when they dry. That's one thing you've got to be a little wary of when you're art journaling is if you're using a water-soluble medium, like an ink, and you go to glue something on the top or go to add another wet medium over the top, it's going to move. So it's best to stick to archival inks. So we're going to use, what's this, Forget Me Not. This is an ink blending brush, so we're just going to rub it over the ink pad and rub it over your page, and it gives you a really light application of ink. So it's going to take that white away without adding a lot of colour. So we're just going to do that in a few spots. This is sort of the misty, so I'm doing the back row of trees in this sort of blue, creating that sort of misty look. Then I'm going to move into cornflower blue. I don't clean the brush behand. This brush picks up such small amounts of ink, you don't really need to clean it. At the end of a session, I may just get a piece of scrap paper and go over a piece of scrap paper. I just want to, I've just noticed I haven't gone right to the edge over here, so I've just got some paint left. I'm just going to fill in that little gap and go along the top here. Got to do that before. So just a little bit of the white up the top that is sky. We've just went and put that back in. just going to be careful not to go up there with my ink. Then I want to grab some fern tree. And colour in some of these trees as well. So as you can see, I'm not being real precise. If the ink overlaps the tree, it gives a bit of a sort of a dark shadow, which is really cool. If the ink overlaps the paint, so if it goes out of the white area that you've left. So just trying to balance up, so I don't want to have lots of light areas in the same spot. And I'm just going to keep going between these ink colours and adding a bit more here and there, just to knock out that white. So I'm thinking, do I want to put in a bit of paint in these bigger areas? Let's do a bit more ink. So I'm basically working on the page until I reach my happiness level. So my happiness level will be different to everyone's happiness level. If you want to leave a little bit of white peeping through, that's fine. As I said, there's no rules, sort of just art journaling. There's a few guidelines like drying your layers and watching your water-soluble mediums. Actually, I want to put a bit of this one. These are a bit light for me, so I'm going to go over and put a bit of, this is Diane Reevely Vibrant Turquoise. It's quite a translucent paint, so it's semi sort of translucent, and it's quite runny. So if I just go over it lightly, just put a little bit down and rub it with my fingers, we are just making those trees a bit darker and making them fade into the background. I just want a bit over here to balance this tree. I want a bit darker. So you'll still see a bit of that ink colour coming through because that ink is permanent. I don't want to totally obliterate the colours, and I want a little bit of white poking through. Using a semi-translucent paint, you can sort of go over your other painted areas and it doesn't affect it, but you can sort of fill in your white bits. Now, I want to sort of fill in this bit because I don't want to leave it white. So what colour am I going to do? I used a bit of this. We might mix a bit of this, which is Distress Paint Tim Holtz. So basically all I'm using, every one of these is an acrylic paint. They're just different brands, and you can mix them all up. The Distress Paint and the Dylusions paint are a bit more translucent. The Dina Wakley paint is more opaque. So I'm just wanting to sort of keep a little bit of this white, but get rid of most of it. Just sort of adding a bit of grass. But I don't want my trees to disappear. Sorry, if I go quiet, it means I'm concentrating. I get lost in my art journal. I can sit here for hours and hours and play. That is looking great. I'm very happy with that. I'm going to do a bit of pen work over the top. We've got some more stuff to do. So this is our background, our base layer. So art journaling is all about adding layers and adding more things and more things to your page. So this is basically my background. I'm going to dry all this off, grab my focal images that I'm going to put on top, and then we'll get going and do some more. So I've dried that off. What I just wanted to show you is I had excess paint up here. So just off camera, I just stenciled onto some really thin greaseproof paper. This is from Woolworths. It's called greaseproof paper and it's in a bright pink package. It's about 30 meters for $2. It's really good stuff. When you glue this down, the white almost disappears. So this is often what I do when I've got excess paint. I will just go and stencil on some paper, and then I've got paper to use on another project. Thought we'd done stenciling, but we haven't. I'm going to stencil some foliage up here. I'm going to turn my book upside down because it's easier for me than reaching up and over the screen. So I've got 2 new foliage stencils released this month. All the products I'm going to use are under a folder, copied into a folder called Craft Alive, Great Australian Craft Show number 7. And they'll be all on sale for a month. So this is our small foliage and our large foliage. You also get the mask. I just don't know what I've done with mine. When you purchase the stencils. So I want to grab a really dark colour called Night. Now Night is a really dark blue. It's almost a black, but it's not. So I'm going to do some foliage in the top. So I'm just squeezing out some Night. Night is my all-time favourite colour with the Dina Wakley paints. This sponge is looking a bit bad, but I'm just going to chop it off and aim for my rubbish bin. Got it in. Oh, I just put my scissors in my paint. Okay, so I'm going to start with the medium stencil. I'm going to put it on an angle, and I'm just going to stencil through the stencil, just to give the top of our page a bit of interest. I want to be quite thick with the Dina Wakley paint because I want this to quite stand out. How are we going? Perfect. So I just want to turn the stencil and have half it hang off the page. I don't want all my foliage to be the same length across the page in a straight line. That would not look very good. So just coming in at different heights and going off the page as well. So if there's a particular spot on your page you don't like, you can now use that to stencil over the top of. Now we're done with that medium stencil. We've got this finer stencil. Actually, I like doing things in odd numbers, so let's do a 5th one. Odd numbers tend to look better. Okay. So now I'm just going to come in, and this foliage is sort of curved, so you can curve it either way. So I'm going to come in this way. I'm going to overlap the medium one I've already done. Oh, I've got an itchy eye and I've got paint on all my fingers. That's going to end in disaster. So you always get an itchy nose or an itchy eye when you're working with paint. So I'm going to bring this one down lower to the page, almost to halfway, and take it back. So overlapping, sort of creating a mirage of foliage, like almost like an overhanging hedge. So I've got coming down here, up here. We'll do a little bit here. We're going to do some more work to this foliage as well as we go. And I just want a little bit keeping this way. Nearly used up all my paint. Again, if I had more of this dark paint left over, I would do some dark leaves on paper to use again. Why not when your sponge is dirty and make a big mess? We're going to dry this off and I'll be back. So I've decided to use some focal images from some stamps. So I'm using some Dylusions Christmas stamps from this set. So my friend Hillbilly Scrapping sells all these. That's where I bought mine from. And this one is Positive Women by Dina Wakley. I love the sketchy figures. So what I like to do with my stamp sets is I like to go mad and stamp out a lot. Then I have these pages ready. If I want to use a stamp, I don't have to, got to go find my stamp. Got to go find my ink pad. And I find I create and use these images a lot more when I have a small stash of them stamped out. So when you feel like creating but don't feel like doing anything, and that's when I do all my stamping. Great job to do in front of the television. Sorry, just fosking for a pen. Great job to do while you're in front of the television to just stamp out. You can even colour some of these, have them pre-coloured. I don't pre-colour things because I don't colour things very often. So what I want to do is these heads don't really have bodies, and if I stick them on here, they're going to look really, really small. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make bodies for them. So I've stamped them quite up the top of the page. So I've just got a ballpoint pen and I'm just going to extend in a scribbly way her body. Not going to worry about arms. These sort of bodies look good with no arms. So there's one body. As you can see, very simple. You can just follow the lines. It doesn't matter how scratchy you are. If I just did one line, looks funny. It doesn't sort of match in with her scribbly style. So you just basically scribble over it. And then I just go and sometimes bring this down a bit. Depends what I'm using. Oh, I forgot. This one, I sometimes like to close up the hair. I don't know. Her hair just looks funny to me. I will put a hat on her. And again, this one just coming down. So I've just stamped these onto 160 GSM paper. I don't like to use a lot of cardstock in my, I'll just give her a bit of a collar. I don't like to use a lot of cardstock because it makes my book too thick. So this is nice and sturdy. Sorry, just doing a bit of pen work over the top because I can. So this is nice and sturdy for your images and things, but it's not too thick to make your book really thick. So definitely if I was using these on a scrapbook page, I would probably stamp out them onto cardstock, or if I'm using them on a card. But because they're going in my art journal, I don't want the layers to get too thick. Your art journal, can't talk. Your art journal tends to get really thick because we've stuck a layer of book text on it. Now we're sticking another layer of, well, we stuck a layer of paint, which is not much, but it all adds up in the end. Saving these bigger pieces, but I'm throwing out the smaller pieces. I have a Ziploc bag of all these larger pieces, and if I'm stamping small stuff, I will go and grab the smaller pieces of paper. But this I probably wouldn't worry about keeping. Sorry if I'm going off camera a bit. When I'm fussy cutting, I do like to have it quite close to me. As you can see, I'm not being real exact. You don't have to be. I do have low vision for the newbies that haven't done classes with me before or met me in person. I wear glasses and have low vision. My vision is low enough. I do not qualify for a driver's license, which makes life interesting nowadays. Didn't bother me until COVID. Now it just irks me. So I do have low vision and find it hard to fussy cut when things are away from me. So I do apologise. And if my head comes into shot, I apologise. I'm just trying to line something up. Now this particular person is looking this way. So I don't want her on this side of the page. Something I learnt from doing graphics at school, if you've got a person or image that's looking, make them look sort of to the direction of the middle of your page, because your eye, when I look at her, my eye is wondering where her eyes are looking and I'm going off here. If I stick her on this side, my eye is wandering to the middle of the page. I don't know why, but I'm feeling 2 and 1. Yes. Now, what am I feeling with these? I think they need some funky hats. I think they do. Let's turn these trees into hats, because that would just be really silly. And of course, I'm all about silliness. So I find I also look at stamps in a different way. Yes, these are Christmas trees, but they're going to make way cool hats. So I'll just quickly... And again, I'm not being too accurate. If you don't like fussy cutting, you could always use die cuts or things. I don't mind fussy cutting. It's quite therapeutic. And sorry, I am off camera. Oh, I apologise. It's hard for me to fussy cut when it's not close to me. Probably using the wrong scissors as well. Let me go find my small embroidery scissors. They're better to fussy cut with. And I need to go find another sheet of these stamped images because I want a second piece of the same design, and this one doesn't have one. Bear with me a moment. Helps if I hit pause. So I decided to finish fussy cutting off camera. You don't really need to see me cut out paper. So I've got a piece of holly for the top of her head. I've got a, I forgot to do the top bit of this. I've got a tree for this girl. I've fussy cut another tree for the other girl, and these are actually trees, but I think they make really cool wings. So go look at your stamps in a whole new light. Can I use this for something else? Yes, this is a Christmas tree set, but we've just turned it into hats and wings and all sorts of things. So I often use stamped images in a different way to get more uses out of them. These people I have used several times, the heads, and you can make them by making them have different bodies and putting them on different backgrounds. They look like different people. Now these are looking a bit boring and they need to be dressed up a little, I think. So we're going to dress them up with some poinsettias. So this is another one of my stencils. So I was just looking at my example. So we're going to take our black blending brush again and some black archival ink and just randomly put some poinsettia on them, just because the whole stark whiteness looks funny. And I'm just going to do them each individually and different. Just trying to go a bit more darker in the insides of the poinsettias. See how that's just added a bit more interest? And then I might do some journaling on the people as well. That's why I think I enjoy and love art journaling so much. It's anything goes. I have a quite wicked sense of humour, and I have a quite wicked sense of humour, and I like weird things. So I will often find weird magazine images or weird pictures in books and incorporate them into my artwork as well. The weirder the better some days. So see how that's just lifted the pieces and taken away a bit of that white. Hello, Alexis. My daughter's just walked in the room. What may I get for you, my darling?
I feel like I've been out in the sun all day.
It is quite warm here. So do you want to go back in front of the air conditioner? And have you got a cold drink?
No.
I'll go get you a cold drink. Hang on a moment. Mother hat getting put on. For you, I'll be back in 1 second. Okay, we're back. Child sorted out. It's quite warm here tonight when I'm filming this video. It's quite humid in the house, which is weird. So I decided I'm going to do some really scribbly journaling. It's not really going to say much on the side, just to add to it as well. Sometimes I like to do this. Your journaling can actually say words, or it can be just sort of scribbly. And I always like to do it on the same side. So I've done it all on the left-hand side, so it's a bit more consistent. Let's go ahead and glue all this down. Now to glue it down, because it's a heavier paper and I'm gluing over paint, I will glue with a bit of a craft glue. I could glue them down with sort of like a matte gel medium, but I don't really want glue on the top of them. I used to glue everything down. Where do I want her wings? I think I want them up here. I don't know why I've given her wings. I've got a thing about wings lately. Every character I do must have wings. I don't know what that is all about. My scrapbooking, my art journaling tends to go through phases. Just waiting for the glue to come down the tip of the bottle. I'll tend to do a bunch of pages that are very similar or with similar techniques or colours, because usually that's what's on my desk. And what I can do is bring her down a bit, and I'm going to cut her off. Cut the bottom bit off. That's what I was going to do. Because I don't want them all at the same height as well. They look better when they're stagnated. Oh God, can't talk. They're put at different heights. Can't think of that word now. My brain tends to turn off when I art journal. And I said it's been super, it wasn't that hot today, but it's super humid tonight. It's weird weather. So I'm just going to glue those down and come along and cut them off level with the bottom of the page. I tend to make them bigger than I want because I usually haven't decided how big I want them until I stick them on. So we just need Holly on her hair. Why? I don't know, because it looks good. A lot of my art journaling doesn't have a reason. It's because I feel like doing it and it looks good. It's like, why am I sticking a Christmas tree as a hat and a head? Because I feel like it. So art journaling can be lots of fun. It can be a place to try out new supplies, try out new techniques. Don't know whether I actually like the scribbly writing here, but it's on there. So now what I want to do is, this paint is completely dry. I want to do some pen work on it. So I'm going to grab some pens. Sorry for rustling in my box. I'm just trying to locate where my pen is. It's a black pen. It's hiding. No, I'm going to have to pause and go find my black pen that I want to do my pen work with. Just bear with me. It was hiding at the bottom of the box. I've got a little box off to the side of me. I usually chuck all the items in I'm using for a project, and then I don't lose them on my desk. Well, I still lose stuff. Okay. So now, talk about pens. You've got to make sure your paint is 1,000% dry. I mean 1,000% dry, over 100% dry, to put your pen work over the top. Otherwise, you are going to bugger your pens. You're going to wreck your pens. I shouldn't say bugger. So what I'm finding is these characters are in the front and they're standing out too much. I need to bring some more white into it. So what I'm going to do is, I've got a Signo Broad white gel pen from Officeworks, and I'm going to add some white into this foliage up here to make it stand out a bit, and also to tie in the white that we've got on the front of the page. So I'm just going to very scribbly. You'll find by experimenting, some pens work better on top of acrylic paint. Some pens refuse to work. And some pens will refuse to work if you go into wet paint. So it is a bit of an experiment, and I'm not doing this very, I'm not wanting to be very exact. This pen is being a bit bothersome. You can sort of see it's not a complete straight line, but that's okay. Like, it's looking like it's got too smaller lines because it's struggling a bit. I've probably gone in with a bit of wet paint. So I find if you go a bit more scribbly and add a couple of lines, it looks a bit better than one sort of straight line. So it's more sketchy than anything. So I could put the stencil back on and go over it. Personally, I don't like doing that, but if you want to do that, go for it. If you want a more of a thinner line and a more exact line, I'm not sort of looking for that. Doing this in my art journal, I use to sort of, it calms my mind, it gives my hand something to do. I will actually carry a sketchbook with me and a couple of black pens, and when I've got downtime, I will, or waiting for my daughter, or waiting for public transport, or just waiting for things in general, waiting at the doctor's, I will just sit there and Zentangle or pattern or draw. I don't know, it's very calming sort of doing this. And don't be afraid to just turn your brain off and go for it. If you do one solid line and you don't get it exact, it tends to look wrong. But let's have a look at this. See how this pops a lot more than this? By adding a little bit of white definition, and I'm actually being careful to work out which foliage is in the background and making sure I don't go over the top of the foliage in the foreground, if that makes sense. Like this bit here, this is in front and this is behind, so he comes over the top, but I don't draw over the other stencil because that would just make it look funny. We don't want to make it more funny than it is. And if you're not exact on going on the leaves, if you're a little off, it doesn't really matter. As you can see, I'm doing it quite quick. I do that because then I'm not getting it real accurate and I'm not overthinking it. If I overthink, and that's why when I doodle, I don't start with a pencil at all. I just go in straight with pen, because if I do it with pencil, I'll overthink it, I'll stress about it, I'll want to get it perfect. Now we're going to swap. We're going to leave that to dry for a few minutes because you're going over the paint. It does need a few minutes to dry. So I'm going to put some definition into our trees. Now this is a Dylusions Dina Wakley paint pen. So this one I have to draw a bit slower with to get the ink to come out, and I have to hold it more upright, because if you hold this one on an angle, it just doesn't like you for some reason. So I'm just trying to find where, a tree was in the background. You can't really see it. Just wanting to define some of the trees. I'm not going to outline every tree, but I just want to give some definition, and some of the definition is lost because you've stenciled outside the lines, or you've got a bit, I'm going a bit fast for my pen. It's the only thing I don't like about the Dylusions pens is you have to go slower, and I personally like to work a bit faster. See how the trees are popping out a bit more? We're going to do this one. Trees are popping out a bit more just with a black line. So I've done a single black line around this, and I'm going to go back. This Dina Wakley pen is not really good for the scratchy scribbleness like the white one. So I'm just going to go back in and put some sketchy lines on it, because you have to work a bit slower. I like to try out a lot of pens, and I've found some pens to be great. Some pens I don't buy again. Some pens I've killed because I go over wet paint. Don't know, I'm on the fence about the Dylusions ones. I do like them, but I don't like the fact that I can't draw really fast. So it just depends. As you draw more, as you do more art journaling, you'll get to know which items you like using and which you don't. So I'm just going to draw around my figures in the background in sort of a sketchy fashion. This will help pop them out from the background as well. Hoping this white's dry up here. Otherwise we're going to have an accident with hand in paint. So again, I'm being sort of quite sketchy. When you've stuck the paper on, because this is 160 GSM, it sits off your page just enough that you can lean the nib of your pen over, and you've sort of got a stencil-y bit to trace around. You can't see it a lot in the photo, but you can you can see the difference between this one and this one. This one seems to, outlining them seems to make them stand out. When I first saw that in art journaling, I thought, oh, why would I outline my figure? And then I started to do it, and I was like, wow, that really makes a difference. So I could have outlined them in white, but I'm going to go in with black instead. Just being careful because that white paint might be a bit dry. White gel pen might be a bit wet up there. Usually I'd go off and dry that first. So these pens do come in different colours. They come in white, and Hillbilly Scrapping has a selection of them. She's trying to get all of Dylusions and Dina Wakley stuff in stock, but it just flies off the shelf quickly. And because of COVID, we've had a lot of trouble. She's had a lot of trouble getting stock. Things are just taking forever. Things are being held up with manufacturing. And then by the time they go from China to America to Australia, it's taking forever to get stock. So I'm just going to go around her hat as well, just to give it a bit of a shadow, and around the base of the holly. So if I stuck pieces over pieces like this, I will put a bit of black on them, just to give a bit of definition, so it helps the pieces sort of tie together. I know it seems funny to put a line between the pieces to tie them together, but trust me, it works. Now I'm not real happy with this down here. I'm wanting to do something down here. What are we going to do down there? And I think we need to add a quote, and then I think we are nearly done. Okay, how am I going to fix that bottom up? Because I don't like the bottom. Let's add some pattern. Let's see if I've got something that looks like glass, sort of, mainly. Don't want to do the holly, because I've used that before. But that swirly stencil I had. Excuse me. Dots? No, I had a... Oh, I've got this one. This one. So this is another one of my stencils. This might just... This is just looking weird to me. I love this top bit. Love the people. This and this and this bit is bugging me. So you'll sort of, as you art journal more, you will find... Just conscious of the time. I've only got an hour and a half slot. Oh, plenty of time, plenty of time. You'll be conscious of, when you art journal, of what you like and what you don't like. And I'm just deciding what colour to do that in. Actually, I wonder if I just do stenciling black. Actually, I might outline it in black, but I'm going to do, this is me being dang indecisive. Peacock. What's this one? If all else fails, pick your favourite paint colour. I find art journaling is very personal, and at the end of a session, I can get to a page and go, yuck, I don't like it. That's okay. For me, art journaling is about having the time, away from my daughter, away from my business, away from life lately, taking time out, sitting down and playing. If I get to the end and I don't like it, that's okay. I work out what I don't like about it. At the moment, these bottom bits I'm not liking, but I'm liking the rest. So learn from that the next page. So this is very busy, but this is a bit plain. That's why it's standing out, and that's the first thing my eye is catching. So we're going to try and fix that. Your art journal can be very personal, and it doesn't have to be on display. You don't have to share your pages with anybody. My pages go all over the internet, but that's my choice. As I say to people when I'm doing art journaling in classes, you're not making a masterpiece that's going to hang in the Louvre in France. I think it's called the Louvre. I should know. I was there when I was in France last time. So it can be as personal and on display as you like, or it can, oh, I'm loving that. See how this and this just looks so different? This has calmed that colour down a little. Art journaling you don't have to do in the one sitting. I do when I film videos, but you don't have to. So I could have done this background. If you don't know how to go further, sleep on it, sit on it. Art journaling, no page is ever finished until you're happy with it. Just going to grab this bit of paper that I was stenciling on before. I've got this tiny little paint left. I know this is one of my things with art journaling. I've got this tiniest little paint bit and I can't waste it. I've got to use it. I don't know. Or a tiny scrap of paper I'll save just for, I don't know, it's just my personality. But this gives me a little bit of pattern paper to use on my next project. And it's amazing how much your makeup sponge holds. And I don't mind if this is patchy, because this will add texture to the background instead of adding paint. I can tear this up and collage this paper. So I've got a nice little, oh, sorry about the noise, nice little piece to work with one day. Now I just want to give that a bit of a dry, and I'm going to think about outlining. I do. This then look like a path. Okay, let me dry this off and I will be back. We're nearly done. Just adding a bit of glue to the bottom, my people. They just didn't want to stick down. So now I just want to do some hand drawing. My heat tool out of the way. Just want to give this pen a bit of a shake. And just sort of want to draw around. And I have to go quite slow with this pen, which, as I said before, irritates me a bit, but maybe it's good for me to slow down. No, Fast and Furious, that's me. But I can sit here and Zentangle over an entire page. Sometimes I do hand drawing on a page like this, lots and lots. Some pages I don't do it at all. This particular time I'm doing a single line. I can always go back and add more sketchiness to it if I feel it needs it. Sometimes one single line is okay. That's what I find with art journaling. There's rules and guidelines if you want your page to look sort of, I don't know, everyone has a different level of happiness. That's the way I put it. So you might like this one single line, or you might like the messy, sketchy look. It just depends. And sometimes I'll use both on the one page. Just depends. As I said, there's no rules in art journaling. There's a few guidelines to follow. But there's really no... Oh, obviously it was going too fast because my pen stopped working. So art journaling is about play. And you can actually do art journaling on quite a budget as well. You can use a lot of recycled things, like I work in recycled books, but I do like to splurge on good quality stencils and images. Our stencils are a great price. They're like normally $5, and I think some of them are on special at the moment. If you are watching this in the Craft Alive classroom, if you're catching it any other time in October, we have sales quite frequently. But $5 for a 6x6 stencil is a rock bottom price. I haven't actually put my prices up in years. I must do that actually. Maybe I need to put my prices up. No. I like to get bargains, so I also like to have bargains in my shop as well. So I believe the Fern, these stencils we're using are like normally $3, retail for $3. So you can have a few of them in your stash. While I'm finishing this off, thank you very much for joining us and watching along. I'm loving this now. We also have a custom made service with my business. Because I make and manufacture all my products right in my house, I can custom make stuff. Say for example you like these foliage stems, but you want to use them on a 12-inch scrapbooking page and you want them bigger, you can email me and say, can I have the foliage small stencil twice as big or 3 times as big? We can make stuff up to 12 inches in size, just depending on the shape and stuff like that. This pen is struggling a little at the end. I must have hit a bit of wet paint. We also make one-off things like names and different things as well. So don't hesitate to ask. The only thing we are limited by is trademark and copyright. They take all the fun out of things, don't they? So I can't make a Winnie the Pooh or I can't make a Disney Mickey Mouse because those companies don't like when you do that. Anything else is fair game. Now, I'm really happy with this, except this little bit is bugging me. As I fix this bottom bit, this wasn't bugging me before. This big bit was. Now this is. So I'm just going to grab a stencil and put some colour into it. I think it's raining. I think I can hear rain. Where did I put that? Threw it in my rubbish bin. That's a good place for it. So I'm just going to take the same stencil I put down the bottom just to add a bit colour. I'm going to be quite heavy-handed because I want it to be quite dark. And we might just add a little bit over here. And that'll help tie this stencil in to somewhere else on the page. I'll just add a little bit here and we'll just add a bit here. If I add something in one spot, it's nice to have it in another spot. So, for example, I've got 3 people. So 3 is a nice odd number to have. Just going to go over that, and it's just standing out a bit too much. I was a bit heavy-handed. That's right. That's why I love these inks, because you can go over and sort of dull things down. Actually, I do like that now. I've dulled that down a bit. So inks are just not for stamping. So just putting this little bit of ink on here just dulls down the colour, and I'm liking that a whole lot more. The other thing with art journaling, knowing when to stop, knowing when your page is complete. Seriously, after 7 years, I'm still not grasping that concept. So if you're just new to art journaling, you've got a long journey ahead of you. Hopefully a very productive one as well. So thank you very much for watching. I will go and take some close-up photos of this because I know it is very hard to see all stretched out in my book. I'll put those at the end. There will also be the close-up photos on my Facebook page, Scrapbooking&Craft. So if you do want to see some more close-up photos, this is not straight. See, I can't stop. I just keep seeing things. I'm going to stop. And if you do make anything that is inspired by any of my classes that I've had in Craft Alive, I'd love to see what you make. Even if it's with totally different products and you don't use any of my products, but if you're inspired to make something similar from what you've seen me do, I'd love to see. Either message me a picture or you should be able to post it on my Facebook page. Not quite sure how that works, but if not, send it in a private message and I'd love to see. Thank you very much, and I am going to be done with this page. I'm going to stop. I'm not going to touch it anymore. Sitting on my hands. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now. And I thought I was finished. I forgot. I wanted to add a quote. So these are from a stamp set that Dylusions, Dina Wakely. I always know, not Dina Wakely, wrong one. Why have two people that do different stuff with similar names? Diane Reevely makes these lovely quote stamps, and she has quote books and stuff. So it's great to add a quote to your layout. See? Thought I was done. So this particular quote says, you may not have lost all your marbles, but there's definitely a hole in the bag. Sometimes I will Google quotes and handwrite quotes. I just thought this sort of goes with the quirkiness of the characters. The quotes can mean something to you, or they can be just totally something ridiculously silly. So I like to cut the quotes up. They come in sort of like a small set. So I like to snip between them and put them in random, sort of more random on the page. Oh, I'm struggling with words tonight. I'm getting a bit tired. Too many videos filmed in the one day. 7-day craft show is a long show. A 4-day normal craft show is a long show. Or it's 4 days for us. It's 3 days for the public and 1 day to set up for us. I miss the craft shows. Bring on 2020 and our craft shows, please. Hopefully they start back up in 2021. Even though I am enjoying this format as well. Would be nice to have a hybrid of them. And if you can hear noises in the background, it's my daughter raiding the kitchen. She sounds like a little mouse. Teenagers, I don't know, they eat a blooming lot, they do. Okay, so I'm just gonna, this is just stamped out on 160 GSM cardstock. Hang on, you may, then you play alphabet soup, you may not have lost your marbles, but there's definitely a hole in the bag. So I just like to sort of space them out. I don't ideally like to put things across the spine of the book, but that's just where my gap is. So that looks about good. Let's just glue them down. Then I'm done. See? Don't listen to what I say, because I thought I was done before and I forgot my quote. So I like to just have them offset so they're not all starting at the same spot. You got the kettle on, Alexis.
I'm making 2-minute noodles.
Oh, apparently it's 2-minute noodle time. That's all right. We are just about done. Is there water in the kettle? Sounds funny. Benefits of working from home with COVID. Okay, I'm seriously done this time. I will let you go. Have a fantastic day. And one more class to go. I'll see you tomorrow in the Craft Alive classroom, or I'll see you at 1 p.m. on my Facebook Live for some more crafty goodness. Bye for now.